As much as last Saturday's events and next week's commemoration of International Holocaust Remembrance Day focus us on the threats our people have faced and still face, this Shabbat also reminds us of the power of our people's endurance, resilience, and commitment to defy those who would do us harm, all of which not only give us hope, but call us to be instruments of hope. No one inspires that hope, that commitment, better than those who have survived the greatest of evils and are here to tell the story. We are truly thankful to welcome to our bima tonight Rosa Ploughner. Born in Będzin, Poland, November 3rd, 1922, to parents Berek and Hanna Rivka, Rosa learned to play the violin during her youth. But that youth was cut short when, at the age of 17, she was sent to the camps. Rosa and only 2 of her 6 siblings survived the Shoah. The rest, along with her parents, perished. In 1962, Rosa and her husband Felix, also an Auschwitz survivor, arrived in the United States, where they live in Inglewood Cliffs. Here with her daughter Ruth, I am deeply honored to call upon Rosa now to share poetic remembrances she composed on a paper bag in the days immediately following her liberation.
Often in my life, I chased a rainbow. I feel an inner storm that seeks an escape. A great emptiness exists in my heart. Another storm hangs over us. Those pressing questions force me. Which way did our dearest ones despair? Where are the souls of those we loved? Who can answer these questions for me? The great emptiness around us, the walls that surround us, or the pillows soaked with our tears? The question cannot be answered. Today, we face those who destroyed our souls, those who demolished our homes and made us homeless. I sit alone in my thought and wonder. My eyes see nothing. My thoughts go where I cannot go, to the places where my beloved rest. Doubt weighs heavy if I ever will be able to face the world. Will my heart ever recover and my wounds ever heal? There is only emptiness around me. It is midnight, and maybe my new life will be different. I have to stay strong to live and enjoy life. Sometimes when tears flow and the heart is broken, the mouth is still smiling.
Rosa is no stranger to our bima. She has kindled memorial lights in this sanctuary in commemoration of Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day in the Jewish calendar in years past. But Rosa, we are so humbled by your being with us tonight and by your beautiful words in a challenging moment such as this one on so many levels. You are in every way an instrument of hope for us, and we are so grateful to you. And now we would turn to a very different sort of instrument of hope. And to tell its story, the curator of our Bernard Museum of Judaica, Warren Klein, and then to play it, our member Basil Alter.
Three decades ago, a customer entered the shop of Amnon Weinstein, a Tel Aviv violin maker, asking if he could restore an old instrument. When Amnon opened the case to examine it, he found ashes coating the bow. The violin's owner had survived Auschwitz because the Germans had assigned him to the death camp orchestra that played as prisoners were herded to the gas chambers. The man hadn't played the violin since. Amnon was thunderstruck. Hundreds of his own relatives, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins had died in the Holocaust. To handle that violin was too much, he said. I could not. But he did, and brought back to life not just that violin, but dozens more that embody many of the darkest days of Jewish history. Lovingly, carefully, he restored violins played by musicians in extermination camp orchestras and in the woods where they fought as partisans. He rebuilt and revarnished ones belonging to musicians who'd smuggled them out of Germany when they escaped and ultimately played in the Palestine Orchestra. He even repaired one thrown from a narrow window of a death train by a French musician crying out, "Where I'm headed, I won't need this." Then, calling them Violins of Hope, he took those precious instruments on tour, allowing audiences in Berlin and Bucharest, London and Los Angeles, the Netherlands, Spain, Jerusalem, even Auschwitz and Dachau to hear their powerful sounds. We had expected that New York would be the violin's next stop and that they would be on display starting next week at our museum, that they would be played in a special concert here in our sanctuary, and their message would echo across the city from bimas of dozen New York synagogues. Unfortunately, we were forced to delay their arrival until next year because of the pandemic. But tonight, as we commemorate the 77th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz and Birkenau, Holocaust Memorial Day, we wanted to give you a preview. The Violins of Hope, then, not only tell the tale of torment and endurance during the Holocaust, they are living reminders of the rich cultural lives that Jews built in Germany and Eastern Europe and beyond, despite the obstacles, testament to the vibrant world destroyed by the Nazis. They help us remember that the 6 million Jews we lost, that the world lost, were not just victims. They were individuals, men, women, and children who danced and sang, celebrated, dreamed, and made beautiful music even from the darkest corners of the earth. Tonight, a violin owned by Max Becker will be played. Max Becker was born in Vilna in 1916 into a prominent family of Polish musicians. His uncle was a composer and his father an oboist in the Vilna Symphony Orchestra. Max followed in their footsteps on the violin, and while still in his teens, began playing with his brother in music halls, nightclubs, and cafes. Then he attended the Vilna Conservancy of Music. In September of 1939, after Germany invaded Poland, Max was drafted into the army, trained as a combat soldier, and sent to the front. But by the time he arrived there, Polish resistance to the Nazi onslaught had collapsed. Captured by the Germans, he was sent to a labor camp in Lower Silesia. Over time, most of the Jews confined there were deported to concentration camps, but Max was spared because one day, while walking across the compound, he heard the sound of music coming from a wooden building and discovered the camp orchestra. After auditioning, he was offered the place of first violinist. There was just one glitch. He had no violin. 63 other Jewish prisoners from Vilna solved that problem by putting together what little they had and asking an Austrian guard to buy Max an instrument. For 2.5 years, Max was the only Jew in that orchestra and the camp jazz band that entertained guards and visiting German troops. Transferred to a real barrack, he became exempt from hard labor and even enjoyed care packages from the family of a Belgian violinist with whom he played. Music then literally saved his life. As the tide of war shifted, Max was transferred into a new camp without an orchestra, lost his privileged status of musician, but not long after, Soviet troops began advancing on the Eastern Front, and the Germans forced him and the other prisoners of war on a death march, pushing them 15 to 20 miles a day in terrible weather with no food and little clothing. Max and several friends managed to escape, and when Germany was defeated in January of 1945, he was left to figure out where to go. Having learned that his entire family had perished, he wandered back to Poland and to France. Finally, after hearing that many refugees from Vilna were in a DP camp in the old Benedictine monastery in Bavarian countryside, he joined them. There, hundreds of survivors were struggling to get back to life, and a group of musicians formed an ex-concentration camp orchestra to lift their spirits. Max joined and played in the first liberation concert in May of 1945. Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people live, was the orchestra's slogan, the rallying cry they broadcast with their very presence. 3 years later, an up-and-coming American composer and conductor on a cultural mission to Germany asked to meet the orchestra, and on May 10th, Max proudly played Rhapsody in Blue with Leonard Bernstein as guest conductor. When the orchestra disbanded in 1949 and the musicians scattered across the globe, Max, who had relatives in Brooklyn, found his way across the Atlantic, his violin, this violin in hand. Married to another member of the ex-concentration camp orchestra, Max raised 3 children in a home filled with music. Unable to find a job as a violinist, he worked in the garment industry. He died in Brooklyn in 2005. Tonight, we will hear the powerful sounds of Max's Violin of Hope, played by Basil Alter, who will perform the meditation from Jules Massenet's opera.